Welcome. In this class, we would focus on the regional development and the basis for the various regional development theories. Now, we have already talked about few of the theories which are related to regional development. We will see how they are confined within the common ideas of regional development and what is a kind of ambit under which we should cover regional development. I felt this topic is important because most of the students are struck up when it comes to regional development, and with a special focus of government on the various projects these days, regional development has come into a limelight. So regional development, if we start with the understanding of a region, if I say this is a map of India, you have certain states that we mark as Bimaru states, the Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha. So you have certain states which are Bimaru states, and these states lack in development. However, on the other hand, you have states of Gujarat, Maharashtra which flourish comparatively well. Why there is a difference in the or I could say what is the reason why certain spaces or certain regions develop less as compared to other regions which flourish better off. So, to explain this, there were various ideas which were propagated by various scholars and scientists, and they tried to explain the understanding of these ideas based on some major categories. The first basic idea to understand it was convergence or divergence of income. So I can say, if we are talking about from economic point of view, there can be few ideas which could propagate why regional development in certain area works well as compared to other areas. So the first idea would be convergence or divergence of income. So you have the economies of scale, that would be the second idea. That's the internal and the external economies of scale. How well you could maintain the internal and external economies of scale. So these are some of the ideas that are directly related to the economic condition of the region or the economic prosperity of a region, I could say. The second ideas are those related to the spatial attributes. When I say related to the spatial attribute, the main idea is the functioning of the space. So functioning of space, or I could say integration of the space, would be another idea to understand why certain regions flourish at a better pace as compared to other regions. And finally, you have a kind of integration of space, that is one thing. Another thing would be integration of space with the economic entities. So integration with the economic happenings or the economic processes that exist in the region. Now, to explain these concepts, there were various fundamental, or I could say conceptual frameworks that were laid down. Those frameworks try to explain the regional development of a region with different ideas. Now, there were various scholars who propounded different definitions to understand what is a region and how regional development should work. The first, if we talk about, is the concepts given by Christaller and Losch. So when Christaller and Losch tried to explain the concepts, Christaller and Losch said the basic idea is to understand the functioning of city or the different sizes of cities. So hierarchy of cities would be the basic idea that was taken into consideration by Losch and Christaller. So the idea of regional development from their perspective started with the hierarchy of cities or the hierarchy in the size of the cities. The next important concept was the nodal economic activities. The nodal economic activities talked about integration of economic activities to the region. So how various economic activities integrate to the existing region would be another criteria. The next demarcation was given by Carl Fox. Carl Fox tried to explain the functional economic area. From nodal, the idea changed to functional. So when he talked about the functional economic area, he tried to focus that all the economic activities that exist in the region are not only due to the presence of the nodal or a single economic activity that is working there. Rather, it is an interrelationship of the various functional organizations that exist. So functional economic area or functional economic activity was the next concept that was given, and he tried to interrelate space with economics and the interlinkages, how the functions work in various economic conditions. So he tried to explain the locational economics, he tried to explain the urbanization economics, where he explained how industries could co-locate on a specific location and how well those co-locations can work. So that was the next idea that was propounded by Carl Fox. Then came Richardson. Richardson talked about the administrative control. So he said it's not just the economics or the spatial aspects that you need to understand, but what you also need to understand is the administrative boundaries. You can work around things only in the administrative boundaries that is permitted to you. So administrative boundary, or I could say the political control, is much important as explained by Richardson, because if you are confined into a political boundary, you would try to explain the regional development of that region, because you can make laws, you can bring changes only in that specified region. Finally, there was another view that was given by Marcuson. Marcuson tried to explain the historical perspective for the evolution of a region. He tried to explain sub-regions have a kind of historical advantage to kick-start the regional development in a region. So his main idea focused on historical perspectives or historical well-being of a region. So these were some of the basic ideas that were laid down by different scholars and scientists to work around the regional development of a region. Now when it comes to the basis of the regional development, there are 5 basic categories under which we would understand the conceptual framework for regional development today. The first is the interregional convergence hypothesis. Now this convergence hypothesis solely focuses on the economics of the region. So I could say the new classical model fits well under the interregional convergence hypothesis. It tries to explain that over the time things are happening in such a fashion that the price of the labor is not much different. So you would have nearly same price of the labor that you would find in India or that you would find in any other developing nation, for example. So what he tried to explain, what neoclassical theorists tried to explain, was the price in the labor is not different over places. As a result, over time there has been a convergence that is flowing, or the things are coming towards a common edge, I could say, to explain the convergence much better. So that was the basic idea that was laid down under the interregional convergence. So regions are converging based on the price of the labor market and the various economic parameters that work in. So Olin, Samuelson were some of the major workers who worked on this concept and tried to lay down the concepts which were first called as neoclassical and later on called as the interregional convergence concept. They tried to explain there are certain regions which are factor abundant. That means you have lot of factors of production that are present in certain regions. So they are rich in factor, and then you have another set of regions which lack factors of production. The regions which are abundant in factors of production will have an advantage in production. So what would they do? They would produce more. Since they have an inbuilt advantage of the factors of production or the abundant factors of production they have, they would try to produce more. Since they are producing more, they would have more intensive use of the factors. So all the factors of production that are present here in abundant quantity would be intensively used. So you would have intensive use of the various factors of production that are present in the regions which are factor abundant. This would lead to import of goods from the other regions, and this import of goods that is happening would be leading to scarcity of factors in another regions, because you already have lot of factors, you are intensively using those factors, and as a result you would be establishing some industries here or some economic activities here. What would happen over the period of time? You would try to import more, and when you are importing more of goods, the regions from where you are importing would lack the other factors of production. So that is how there would be convergence of all the factors of production at a single point location here. So this is one of the examples. The recent case study that was in news few days back was a import of donkeys by China, and that was again an example of the interregional convergence hypothesis, because what is happening is they require the skin of donkeys for one of their medicines which is commonly used in China. As a result, they are importing from Burkina Faso and various African nations. So what is happening is they have the factors of production that exist there and they are importing. So what you are doing is the regions from where you are importing ultimately would lack those factors of production, and there would be convergence of all the factors at a single location where they are being imported. So that is how they try to explain the convergence hypothesis. Samuelson later on tried to elaborate on this, and he tried to explain that it is not only the mobility that exists, but besides the mobility of the factors of production, you have the long run prices of factors of production that should be considered. So it's not that you need to understand those for a day or two or kind of short run process, but what would be the real prices in long run should be understood under the factors of production when they are explained in detail. The next is the location theory. The location theory, well propounded by Weber. We have already taken those under the class on Weber's. Just to recap those, when we talk about location of industries, it could be either near the source of raw material or near the source of market. So when I am saying the industry is located near the source of raw material, that means the raw material might be either heavy or bulky, or should be is confined to a specific location. It's not ubiquitous, it's not present everywhere. However, when I say the industry is located close to the market, that means I can say the weight of the finished product that is present here is much higher as compared to the raw material. So I am trying to relieve the transportation cost and get the transportation cheaper. So as a result, you have a kind of mechanism that exists, and based on that you try to understand or decide where the economic activity should be established or where the industry should be established. So this was propounded under the location theory. Later on, Izzard gave the modification for the location theory, and Izzard, who is also known as the father of regional science, he tried to examine the impact of space onto the existing economic activities, and not only the economic activities, but based on those economic activities, what kind of decisions should be made. So he tried to focus, or his main idea was understanding the economic decision making capacity based on the region. The next idea is the external economies. When I talk about external economies, we must understand that sometimes it happens so that industries try to clutter around for unrelated reasons. So you might have a kind of 10 number of industries that exist in a city, but all those industries are unrelated by all means. They do not have a common platform on which they should be related. So that is what we understand under external economies. So external economies try to explain concepts under two heads. The first is the locational economics and the next is the urbanization economics. When we say it's locational economics, that means we try to co-locate the similar industries close by one another. That means if you have one industry that requires wires and inputs from iron steel industry, you might locate another industry which requires inputs from iron and steel industry close to that industry. So that is a kind of co-location that exists when you have industries which are using more or less the similar parameters. The next is the urbanization economics. Urbanization economies talk about co-location of firms of different industries. So those two industries might be totally different, but they are co-locating at a similar region because it is the need of the region for both of the industries to be present there. So that's a kind of phenomena that is seen mainly in the urbanization economies. The next is the model for spatial competition. When we talk about model for spatial competition, we talk about mainly the Hotlinks model that we have already explained. So if you remember the ice cream seller or the ice cream vendor example, so that is what works around with the spatial competition. So you have a beach where you which is extended, and you have two ice cream sellers at two ends, and then you try to locate and understand the best location for the ice cream sellers. So that is what is the spatial proximity. So I might plan to reach halfway to get an ice cream, but I might not go from beach A to beach B to get an ice cream. So that's a spatial proximity. If you have a vendor close by, you would be probably inclined to go to the vendor which is nearby. So spatial competition talks about this spatial proximity. If you are getting the same thing and the same facilities close by, your distance of I could say commuting would decrease. And finally you have the central place theory. Again we have tried to understand the Christaller and the Losch model under the central place theory. So Christaller, as we said previously, tried to explain the hierarchy and the distribution of cities of different size. So how different size cities work. However, this model was elaborated by Losch, and Losch tried to explain the concept of demand cones. When he tried to explain the concept of demand cone, he tried to explain that demand cones enter into the hexagonal area that exists, and this is how he tried to explain the demand cone model, where he tried to say the relative size of the market areas as the territory over which it is distributed would be explained by what it is selling, or what it is would be determined by what it is selling. So he tried to explain this demand cone model under the central place theory. So that was based on again the transportation and the economics of transportation. Now when it comes to understanding the regional theories, there are various regional theories that have been propounded by various scholars to understand the development in a region. The sum of those which we can head it under different sectors would be, if we talk about the convergence, I can say it could be a export based model or a exogenous growth model, where you have growth from some exogenous parameter. If we talk about the divergence theory, when we talk about the cumulative causation model and the growth pool theory, we have covered those already. We would be covering the remaining theories which we haven't touched till now. The next is the structuralist theory that talks about the stage and sector model, so we have already covered those. The theories related to profit production, the restructuring of an industry, Marxist theory, and theories related to networking and flexible specializations. Then you have theories which deal with political institutions, the growth machine models, the new institutional economics, the emerging neoclassical models that focuses on endogenous growth rather than the exogenous growth under the convergence theory. Then you have an integrated approach which tries to understand all of these parameters under one head. So we will be covering most of these, nearly I should say all of these regional development theories in the subsequent lessons. Some of those, the important ones, we have already gone through. We will be covering the remaining ones, and we will try to see how the basic differences between a growth pole and a growth center, the basic ideas related to regional development, and the applicability of regional development in the recent schemes, the government schemes and the projects that are being launched. You can subscribe to our channel for more updates. Have a good day ahead.